it's justified, and so on and so forth.
And I think that we can easily build that into our community presentations and our surveys.
Certainly. And just one last question for the chief. Are you sure you don't want a chopper?
For $65,000.
So, Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council, I would tell you I would love a chopper, but I think in the best interest of spending our tax dollars, the UAS program would be best for our community. Thank you.
Awesome. I'm having a good time here. Now we're going to Councilmember Montano.
Thank you, Mayor Trent. I know Councilmember Nunez had mentioned 8. Is that what you said? So, well, or more than 4, but I want you to be mindful that technology changes, just like computers. So it's best to be frugal, because they'll be outdated, and there'll be some better ones out there in the market. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Montano. Always fiscally sound. Okay, well, doesn't look like there's any further remarks from our city council. I want to conclude this item. We have received the presentation of the UAS technology, and we provided our captain with staff feedback on the program and policy. I do look forward to the next 90 days and our police force out in the community continually engaging with residents. And you know what? We got to go to public comment. Yeah, Mr. Montemayor, did you? I saw your hand go up. That's you, right? Yep. Okay.
Yeah. I'm with the exploration for many years. So I'm with the multispectral photography and aeromagnetic survey. But I have in mind now the safety. If you could fly over the live wires and the clearance to the landing and more. Our equipment before is equipped with camera, but you have the video anyway in flying. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Montemayor. And actually, you know what? Mr. Montemayor made me remind me of one more thing. Mr. Montemayor lives over on Penitencia, which is over at Kurtner School. And so if we could stay away from the Eagles at all times going forward, that's my inspired request, thanks to our resident over at Penitencia. Let's just be mindful of our Eagles. Thank you.
Sir.
Okay, very well. Moving on here to item number 14. Thank you very much, Chief, and everybody. Deputy Chief Raleigh, too. Thank you very much. Yep. All right, moving on here. I think this may be the last item of the evening. That'll be my recommendation under Leadership and Support Services. Let's discuss clarifications related to the scope of the Rules Subcommittee and provide direction to staff on next steps. And we have Ashwini here.
I'm going to go ahead and introduce a little bit of the item here first. And so as you know, the City Council has approved the creation of the Rules Subcommittee on April 16th initially as a pilot program, and the subcommittee has met a total of 6 times to date. At this time, at the time, we did know that there'd be issues to iron out along the way. Along the course of these meetings, questions have arisen pertaining to the agenda management that require clarification of the entire City Council. As your city manager, I did place this item on tonight's agenda to clarify both subcommittee areas of responsibility as well as areas of agenda management. A particular area of this that really has my attention is the prioritization of agenda items and how those items affect staff's current work program. Assistant City Manager Shrini Contact will be going, she'll be touching, she's going to touch the background of the subcommittee, but more importantly, she's going to review the current process for adding an item on the agenda, as well as walk you through specific areas where staff is seeking clarification.
Thank you, Steve. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I know it's late, so I'll try to be as brief as possible and spend, leave some time to get feedback from Council. So Steve covered the background briefly. Just wanted to note on this slide that Council gave direction in June that this is to be a pilot program for 9 months, at which time we will return. And then at that point, if it's to move forward, it'll be incorporated into the municipal code. So at this point, it's a policy document, not considered really a legal codified document. And so the items that we are seeking clarification on cover a couple of areas. The first one is the process to add, for council members to add items to the agenda. So as you know, we started this fairly recently. This is the current process where two council members work together to request items be added to a council agenda. The scope document that was approved on June 18th basically lays out that this request would be submitted through the request form. It is to be added to the next draft council agenda. It does go to rules for informational purposes, and then it just gives the time that it's due by 5 p.m., 5 days prior to the rules subcommittee meeting. So there's a few questions that staff has that we've encountered situations and just wanted to get some clarification on. So if requests are received by the established timeline, the scope document right now says they must be added to the next regularly scheduled meeting. However, does the rules subcommittee have any discretion to place it on a different meeting date if the agenda already has several substantive items? So I'm just going to go through all of these and then can come back for discussion. The second one is if the rules subcommittee is unable to meet, so this has happened once we've encountered it. If we get requests, should staff just place them on the agenda or wait to bring these requests forward to the next rules subcommittee meeting? Should there be a cap on the number of agenda item requests? So as you know, we've had several on the agenda, and we're not, with all the rest of the items on the council agenda, we're not necessarily able to get to all of them. So whether the council would like to just have a rolling kind of record of all of them on every agenda, or would we want to cap the items? Number 4, is there more detailed explanation needed about how this request ties to the council priority areas? On the current form, we have priority areas that can be checked off. So if a request basically involves or is aligned with a few council priority areas, it's just checked off. Does the council, the rules subcommittee feel like more information is needed? What kind of discretion does the subcommittee have on determining if an item is urgent or not? Right now, the form has a checkbox for urgency of the item and a reason for the urgency. And then the last one is related to other, I think we'll come to the other one, the other subcommittees. But this last one is, can a majority of the council add an item to a future agenda during a council meeting, or must it go through the agenda item request form? And so I can pause here and get council feedback on this, so I can continue on with the presentation.
Thank you very much, Ashwini. I certainly do believe that we need a lot of clarification, actually, on this rules subcommittee. And I know I appreciate the vice mayor for her leadership bringing this subcommittee forward to ensure no one goes through the experience that I believe she went through early on. And so at the same time, we do need to really bolster and strengthen this pilot program, because there are questions, and it's something that we must address as we take a look at the agenda we have tonight. Even it's a formidable list under the reports of mayor and council members, and I believe this body could and should make a direction tonight that's going to continue to streamline our processes here in the chamber. So I'm very, very, very pleased with that being said. I want to go back to, let's see here, the items for clarification. Yeah, just taking a look at the agenda, you see, I believe, 10 or so. Let me see, 1, 2, 9. Several items. And, we don't know where to go, what to do. I think that, I think we need to really take a moment to understand, especially for the members that have been here, that we do have a structure in place in the springtime with our budget meetings over several months. And I know I, for one, don't expect items to just happen instantly. I believe I see an item on the agenda from Councilmember Nunez and Fan. I'm not going to say what it is because we're not talking about it right now, but there are some things on here I think that are going to go forward, and I think they're going to be spectacular here in the city of Milpitas, and I think people are going to really feel it in their hearts and minds, and it's really going to touch people. And so those items, for example, maybe they'll go on the CIP, and so if something like that gets approved, a project, I think come the spring, for example, we could, that would be approved now or soon, and it would just park for a few months until we get to the kind of the budget meetings that we do and putting together the budget going forward. And that's how I envision, as a member of the subcommittee, how this might work. Now, in regards to non-projects, maybe like a urgency policy, I think as we go forward with our agenda, as we have in the past, we can, as a body during a meeting, say, hey, let's move item number 50 up to the front, right? And if there's consensus there, it's very clear. And then the last piece, I know you're taking notes, Ashwini. These are all requests that are brought by 2 members. And I know that if ever we have 3 members come forward with something during a meeting, let's say during announcements, right? And we have 3 members, for example, come forward and say, we want to place an urgency ordinance as soon as possible. Then, I mean, that's very clear. And I think if we have 3 members during a meeting that appropriately ask for an item urgency possibly to be on the next meeting agenda, then that can really bypass the rules subcommittee, because I mean you have 3, and anytime you have 3, that's a pretty powerful thing. But yes, time management is key. I'll conclude here. Time management is key, and I do see a number of items under the reports of mayor and council members, like I have since my first day here, and I would be happy to limit it to 5, I think. And then let's say, like, looking at number 21, for example, and down the list, we can just keep that in a stack, and that way we don't have to waste too much ink, because we're really not going down and going over that many items. And so those are my recommendations for going forward as we look for clarification. I think the rural subcommittee has been a tremendous success, a tremendous proposal brought by the vice mayor, and I see that with my colleagues submitting request forms, and I'm very ecstatic to see, along with the residents, more great policy making. All right, next up here we have Councilmember Nunez.
I ran out of stuff to drink. That's the only reason I've cleared my throat. So one, I do think it is a pilot, and so we need to figure out what we're doing with it. I do think what's been brought forward is administration questions about the process, not so much council questions about the process. That's how I read the 6. So if you go back one slide for me, right there. So I remember sitting up here, and one of the things we talked about is that if we were up here and 2 councilperson said, oh, we like that on there. That was enough to get it on. We didn't have to do anything else, just appear. I don't know if that's still going or not. So mine are more questions than anything else. I think the process is something that we're working on. I have that same cough. And my goal is to make sure we keep the process and just make it better. I think that like this part down here about needs to be submitted by 5 p.m., 5 days prior to the rules subcommittee meeting. We're not consistent when that rules committee meets. And so that's sort of hard to say when is that to get it in, but I didn't even know that was a rule until I just saw it. So I think consistency will make us better at it. And then if you go to back to this page we're on, there. So some of, when Anthony and I got together, I sort of thought once we presented it, we would be invited to talk about it because we don't necessarily want it on the next agenda. It was so much, we wanted to talk about what our item was and for somebody to say, you know, your next step should be over here doing this as opposed to putting it on the next agenda. The trouble is that since there's 2 council persons there, Anthony and I can't talk. So somebody else is trying to guess what we meant. And I think we need to be able to find a way to say, we didn't want you necessarily to put it on the next agenda unless you thought, after listening to us, that was the next logical step. It could be, as the mayor said, the next logical step is put that in the queue for the CIP. That's where that really goes. Oh, okay, that makes sense. So now it wouldn't be here, it would be someplace else. But I noticed on this agenda for this month, number 16 is provide direction to staff on a council policy for training and events. That didn't go to the subcommittee, but I noticed it's our city attorney and you, Ashwini, but it really is something for us. And I thought, how did that get on? If we had gotten to it, I would have asked. But so my question is, there must be, if I had just gone to Steve and said, I'm just going to ask you to put it on, is that another way to get things on? But at the end of the day, in my opinion, it's 100% better than before, because before I never knew how to get anything on. So now I'm saying, I just think we need to work through the rules so we all understand them. But one of them I'm asking to be letting those that submit the form come and speak to the form, because I think you wouldn't then have, 10, 12, 15 of them lingering on here, because after a 5-minute discussion, it could be sent to another commission, it could be sent someplace else, and you wouldn't have them all show up here. And I think at the end of the day, that's what we really want. We just want direction of what's the next step. And for me, the one about the one about the theater, I don't see us having a huge discussion here, because we're sort of saying, what is the next step for that? That's a grand idea, but it's too big and too nebulous right now for here. That might be going over and talking to Renee and then seeing if there's money in the CIP budget. So that might be 6 months down the road or something. So I don't want to have something that isn't fully thought out, brought here for discussion and getting thrown away when actually I was really mostly looking for direction yet. So that's my thing really is, I think council persons, at least I'm asking for an opportunity to speak on the issues that we're presenting, to say, here's really what that item means. Because that form, if you notice, I have to usually turn mine in 3 or 4 times, because my fingers aren't quite as, they're not as nifty as they used to be. And so people usually ask, you did this yourself, right, Bob? Because those aren't real words. And the answer is yes, I do those myself. But I do want you to understand it's 100% better than it used to be, because at least I know where to start, and before I didn't.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Nunez. Next, we're going to your left, Vice Mayor Dominguez.
Thank you very much, Mayor. So I want to start off by saying thank you to everybody for being part of this process. And I'm going to try my best to articulate what I'm thinking, because I understand that my experience may be different, and not saying it's more or less, it's just different. It's the way you're trained to do certain things. And so when I started the conversation about bringing back the Rules Subcommittee, and I learned the history of what it's been in Milpitas, and not only my experience, but while I was running, I saw the experience of other council members with not being able to bring their council items forward through an agenda process that brought transparency, that brought equity, that brought back a very important piece of our government structure, which is to create the checks and balances and allow the public to see how an idea really comes to fruition in the city of Milpitas. I felt that the goals for the subcommittee were exactly that. And I feel like they have, right? I don't feel, definitely, I didn't want to copy and paste what the Rules Committee does, for example, in the city of San Jose or in the city of Fremont, because the city of Milpitas is very different. So one of the things that we've been running into is, so I'm gonna start one by one, because I want my colleagues to understand how this conversation came about, and I want the public to understand my own thought process, and please interrupt me if you guys have any questions along the way. So number one is, if requests are received by the established timeline, must they be added to the next regular city council meeting or any subcommittee placed on a different meeting if the agenda has already have enough items? So one of the goals that I hope the subcommittee reaches is the ability for the subcommittee to not control what comes through, in essence, not blocking an idea, but does control the items that are going to be placed for the next agenda. Because, for example, you saw how many items we have today, and I do feel that's part of the subcommittee's responsibility to look at, because Steve and the staff do an amazing job in telling us, look, Vice Mayor and Mayor, this is what we need to hear, because we still need to operate a city. So if we don't hear these task items, we may not be able to approve a grant that's going to affect our safety. We may not be able to approve authority for the city manager to sign a contract that may, in essence, block some city services. I don't know. So that is where the city manager helps us navigate, right? It's like, this is the calendar. We kind of know already by now, right, by 10 o'clock, how many items we're going to get through. So the subcommittee really, I believe, has the authority and the responsibility to navigate the agenda prior to it coming here, to make sure that there's enough time for us to do what we need to do, which is hear all the items so the city could operate. So I guess if I could, Ashwini, is it okay if maybe we could, and council, is it okay if maybe we just go one by one and then just provide her with some direction? And also, I think that would help the mayor and myself in what your thought process, because I think one of the things both of us, we wanted that conversation to happen, right? Because we could have just had the conversation in the subcommittee in itself, but we were stuck. We were split in what we were thinking. So I think it's really important, not only for staff, but also for us to get the feedback of what you're thinking. So the problem that we were experiencing with number one is the vagueness of when does that item come to council, right? So now you submitted an idea, like the council member Nunez said, and that idea then goes through the subcommittee. It wasn't my intention when I wrote the subcommittee, maybe this is where I didn't articulate or wrote it in the language, was that the subcommittee would then look at what you said and say, okay, this is a CIP project with staff. This should really go in this pipeline. This is a great idea. Okay, let's see if we could get direction. It should go on this pipeline. And then once we look at the pipeline, Steve looks at us and says, okay, council, be realistic. We've already set the priorities the year before. Does that align with the priorities? And if so, then it moves forward into an agenda. And if not, then it gets in this pipeline, right? It's not a pipeline to block ideas. It's just a pipeline that says, you know what? We don't have time right now. Where could we squish it into the calendar? Or does it go into a budget process? Or does it go into a CIP conversation? Or does it go into a subcommittee, right? If it's something on housing, right, does it just say, hey, like, goes into the subcommittee? So I guess my expectation or my thought process was that all of these conversations would happen in the subcommittee, so that way it wouldn't happen here and it wouldn't take away from council meeting time because we're not having enough time to go through the agenda items. So that is what I feel the challenge is right now. I don't know, Mayor, if you want to add any additional comments to the challenge that we have experienced already. And that's just number one. So I would love to get some feedback before moving into number two.
Thank you very much, Vice Mayor. And I think it all comes down to bandwidth and a couple of things. First thing, I think whether there's 2 or 20 request form items on the agenda, if we don't get to the first one, then we're not getting to any of them. And so in terms of the time impact, if we don't ever get to any of those under the reports of the mayor or council members, then it's going to be the same impact. But that being said, bandwidth is key. And the second thing I want to talk about is bandwidth. I think there needs to be more parameters. Like the vice mayor has indicated, we're not looking to block anything whatsoever. It's just the bandwidth of it, it sounds like, and understanding what's important. I think that can fall on the council members and myself. Maybe we can do a thing where each individual member of this body can have no more than 3 request forms submitted at a time. And that's going to make an individual, I'll use myself for example, it's going to make me say, hey, I'm limited to 3 request forms at a time. I'm going to make sure I choose the 3 most important ones that I believe are priorities for the city. And I think if we do that, it's really going to cut down items. For example, I know there's already 5 and 10 up here, 9 up here. But let's just say we kept it to 3 for each member, right? And so a member can work with various members. I can work with the vice mayor, or I can work with Councilmember Nunez. But at most, I can only have 3 items with my name on it. And I think that would really manage the bandwidth. I think that would be a positive measure and control that we can take that would be fair. And that way we could really minimize the number of proposals going forward. I think that'd be fair. And I think we would all appreciate each other's focus on certain priorities. But anyway, that being said, let me go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and let's do this very efficiently, and we'll go down the line here, and everybody can put forward their opinion on each of these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 items for clarification. I think 1 is subjective. I think at the same time, I do understand what it says right there. And so maybe we can cap the number of these request form items to 5. 1, there's 5 of us up here. I think that'd be good. And the rest would have to go in a pile until some room clears up. That way the agenda looks nice and tidy. 2, if the rules subcommittee is not to meet, I think we've met every time except for once when, there's some travel things, but business as well. And so I really do think our meetings have been consistent. Should any council member request be placed? If we're not able to meet, then, let's wait till we meet. We'll wait till we meet, and then we'll go for 3. Should the number of agenda items... Clarification is hard, folks. 3, should the number of agenda items be capped? A certain number on any one? Yeah, we spoke about that. 4 is a more detailed explanation needed on how a request is directly tied to one of Uh-huh. Yeah, I thought we're each gonna take a. I thought we are gonna go down the line and answer the. Did you wanna?
Yeah.
I gotta hit this button a lot of times, you know. Okay. Okay. Well, let's go down the line then with number 1. Okay. Next up would be the vice mayor. Okay.
Thank you.
I need you to. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Are we? Maybe we should vote, huh? Let's see. I mean, yes. I think 1 is yes. Okay. Vice mayor.
Okay, so I guess, do you see where our process of thought is very different? And not saying one is correct and one is not. And this is where I need my colleagues' assistance. For me, it's not a yes or no. The issue that we're having is, what does next mean? So for example, we received some requests and there was a lot of requests and both the mayor and I had a difference of opinion of when these matters came up. I was thinking they come up when we have room, right? Because next was this agenda, and as you know, we didn't make it through our agenda items. And the problem that we're having is that we haven't finished an agenda since we came back. So we're backed up right now, right? Which one? Number 3? Okay, so we could do. Yeah, no, this is where we need help, and this is why I didn't feel, we got that 10 minutes, and this is really, really important because it's going to determine how our ideas come eventually to us. And so I guess we could start with number 3 is, so I guess the challenge is we don't have enough time on the agenda. That's the challenge right now. Steve, could you remind me right now how many agenda items we are backed up that we have not heard? I think it was 12 that we said last Friday.
Mary, you think does it sound 12? If it's 12, we just moved an item, right? We didn't finish an item tonight, and these others.
So now
12 plus the task item would be 13 if it was 12, plus the items we haven't gotten.
So now we're 14. The problem now is we're 14 items behind.
15 items.
15 items behind, right? So I guess at this point the question is on number 3. Should we cap the number of agenda ideas that come through us? Limit it? That's number 1 question. The second question that I would like to ask for number 3 is, could we just cap it at 0 until we catch up with the priority items? Does that make sense? I don't know, Bob. Give me feedback.
Okay.
Help me.
So I'm trying to understand the question first. So
Okay.
Are you telling me then, city manager, there are items you did not put on the agenda?
No, can I help?
No,
Oh,
no,
go ahead.
no,
Go ahead.
because what you said was there's 12 or 13 items we didn't get to. We got to every item except for those put on by council that was on this agenda. So there's either items you didn't put on this agenda, or the only ones we're talking about are our own.
I hear you, Councilmember Nunez, and just looking at it, 15 and 16. I think the key items are the ones that city manager places on the agenda.
Yeah, so that's what I'm trying to figure out. If
Everything else is really very important, but also what do they call it? I want to say respectfully extracurricular. It's not the what Jose Estevez, Mayor Estevez used to tell me, he said core services and things, and I think respectfully, any of our agenda request items, I mean, I got nothing but love and respect for it, but us not getting to it isn't going to affect our core service.
No. So I think you did it right by having ours at the very end. If we don't get to them, we don't get to them.
Yeah.
But I want to make sure. I thought we got to everything we needed to. But if there's really 12 you didn't put on, then I'm going to leave here feeling happy, and I shouldn't.
Yeah, you're right, council member. So So I just played off of the 12 because that's the number I heard. I don't even recall if that was correct. So let's just go with tonight's agenda.
Yeah.
Tonight's agenda, we just did not get to 15 and 16.
16.
Right.
But so we were only just 2 we didn't get to.
And one item didn't get decided on.
Yeah.
So that's
But
3
no,
items.
but we got to it.
We got
That was
to
the
it,
action
right.
we took.
Well, we moved that item to the
11.
15th,
Yeah, but
right?
that's the action we took.
Right. It would,
So
yeah.
So
it was
the ones we
addressed.
didn't do were our own. So, and I'm always comfortable that if the ones we don't do are the ones that we put forward, so there's not 12 or 13, there were 2.
Yes.
Question. I would differ because when we went through the rules committee last Friday, there was a list of items that had.
Councilor Nunez, I'm going to have to ask you to
Okay.
turn your microphone off so I can turn the other one on.
Sorry,
All
I
right.
think, and again, it's just a clarification question because I think we haven't been in the same room, and that's why we're bringing this conversation here. So when we met for the Rules Committee on Friday, there was a list of items that went to different council agendas that have been placed, but that's because we didn't get to them in council meeting 1, council meeting 2, council meeting 3. And so they didn't get to this one because he's prioritizing what we need to get to. But there's another list that we have in the Rules Committee where he's already put them in a future council meeting. But the problem is if we as a body keep submitting, even if we cap it at 3, there's 5 of us, that's 15 extra ideas that come through each council meeting.
The only thing I could add to it without having the information in front of me is this is correct. We horizon these out, so we know the future calendars for the next, well, we estimate the next 3 to 4, and we place and move things around based on what we see coming up as your highest priorities.
And I just want to appreciate you, Steve. And, that short-term and long-term document of the items that will be placed on future agendas, that's just standard protocol. It's like a calendar. We got to go month by month. We can't just do 6 months in 1 month. And so that's what that document really is. It's all timeline items that we can't do the 4th of July and Christmas sort of a thing. I'll go to Councilmember Nunez.
Yeah. So, but I think that's a wonderful point. So Steve, as I look at it, we're actually caught up. You're projecting out says we should be looking at that saying, if you put 5 things on in November, you need to know that I have 15 things already on in November, so don't do that. But right now, we are caught up except for our things. No, that's what he just said, though.
I think we are.
Well,
we are.
No. So, okay, this is where there is a confusion and, sorry.
Thank you, Mayor. And that's where I think there's a confusion because there's some of us that believe we're caught up and I don't believe we're caught up because the first meeting, so I wish we had that list because I think that would help. So this is going to be a lengthy conversation.
Yep.
And it's already midnight, and I do want to give it the time that it deserves because if we don't, we're going to catch ourselves doing this over and over again. And I just want to be very respectful of your guys' time. And please know, we brought it back because we need your help. We need your feedback. And I don't feel comfortable making that decision for all of us without it. I think this is the Rules Committee is one of the most important parts of government. And I do not want to cheat time on it. And I know that it's going to help all of us at the end of the day. So I guess my recommendation right now for time being is let's add it into the next. But I think we need to bring the notes from our last. So this is my or at the retreat. Maybe we could dedicate some time at the retreat for
One
this.
option.
I don't know if
and
that's
Steve,
an option.
feel free to chime in however you want.
I'm ready, but I'll let Chris start.
I know the retreat has a set format, and so I did hear for at least one council member say that they would like the opportunity to speak at the Rules Subcommittee. I don't know how I feel about doing this ongoing, but what you could do, at least at the next Rules Subcommittee meeting, which is Friday at 3 o'clock, have the whole council attend, and you can get through these questions,
I think
as well
that's
as
a great
take care of
idea.
the rules issues that need to be addressed.
Yeah.
And then we can all go on and have a great weekend.
I think that's a.
Hopefully.
Yes.
Sure.
Yes, I just wasn't sure what was. Let me, Councilmember Nunez.
Yeah, so I agree with that, Chris. And I want to say that both Carmen and I were at the last one. Carmen got up after 20 minutes and beat me out the door. I volunteer for every subcommittee there is. I am not volunteering for this one. No way, no how, because I watched how difficult this committee is.
You're gonna make someone mad at some point.
Yeah, you are. Even yourself. You make yourself mad going there. And so I understand truly how difficult that committee is and the role that they're playing in trying to develop something new. I think that's a great idea, Chris, trying to come Friday and try to help just get the process down, not the stuff, but the process. Really, if Carmen hadn't left 3 minutes later, I think I got up and left because it is painful to watch. And I also know there was no way to make it easier or better or anything. And so I admire the fact that you two have been sticking it out. Because every time I go in there, when I leave, I do not understand what something that looks so simple is just not. So I think getting us all together on Friday will be helpful to answer those questions. But I'll tell you, those meetings probably are the most difficult ones to watch that I've been to at any subcommittee, any commission, any council meeting since I've been here. And really, I understand that they are meant to make it better for all of us. And so I thank you for going, and so please do not resign from those subcommittees because...
So you're saying the school district
Yes.
city subcommittee is a wonderful one.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Councilmember Nunez. And let's see. I'm looking for whoever wants to use the microphone. I don't see anybody. Anybody want the microphone? Needs to hit the button. Okay. Thank you, Vice Mayor Dominguez.
You're welcome. Thank you, Mayor. So I think at this point, if we could just, do we have to make a formal recommendation to just, or, okay, give direction and that's it?
We'll just
So-
take council direction tonight to
Okay.
have these questions on for our 3 o'clock Rules Subcommittee meeting on Friday, which will also be agendized as a council meeting so the full council can attend.
Like another study.
And it may be helpful to see some of these questions in practice with going through a Rules Subcommittee process and then getting clarity on the questions.
And in order for council just to have a better understanding of Friday, what happened on last Friday, I know both Councilmember Montano and Councilmember Nunez were there, but if we could just get that list so we could walk through it, and then hopefully if council, if you could come with some goals that you want to get out of the, what do you need the subcommittee to do for you? And then maybe we could start with a backwards process of what the goals are, and then how are we going to get there together, and then hopefully the process will come out of that. Does that sound good?
Thank you very much, Vice Mayor. I do want to check with Steve for clarification. Now, I believe the documentation of list of agenda items, I believe every council member already has it. Isn't that a document provided?
That's the
If I
document.
could just interject. So I think we're talking about two different things. One is the Horizon Report. That's just the 6-month look ahead. The other one is something we had started tracking of items that didn't get heard and got rolled over to the next meeting or the following meeting. And that's the list the Vice Mayor is referring to. So we'll make that available as well. And then the questions, this was just one of the slides, but there were a couple of other ones too that we needed clarification on. So what we can do is compile it all together and send it to you so you have some time to think about it before Friday. And then we look forward to getting your feedback on Friday.
Clarification.
Yes, we'll send it to you tomorrow morning.
Clarification. Thank you very much, Ashwini. Thank you very much. And we'll go ahead and prepare to adjourn tonight's meeting. With that being said, I want to adjourn this meeting tonight in the memory of Deputy Sandeep Dhaliwal. We'll have a moment of silence. Thank you very much. I know the chief and some officers are headed to the memorial tomorrow locally here in San Jose. Reach out to chief for more information. This meeting is adjourned. Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's Milpitas City Council meeting here on October the 1st, 2019. A lot of great conversations we're going to have, discussions we're going to have tonight. And we just had some closed session items, and we'll look to Chris for any announcements.
Thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to note for the public and council, there is nothing to legally report out of closed session this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chris. All right, folks, if it's your first time here at the Milpitas City Council meeting, welcome. We do have an agenda we go by every meeting. It's a piece of paper with the list of things we got to do. And you can get an agenda right through those doors over there. Maybe on that back table, there might be some. We're going to have opportunities for the members of the public to come up here and speak during public forum, maybe public comments during public hearings. And so we do have these green cards back there. If you can kindly fill one out, that'll help our city clerk record who you are on this date in our city's history. You're not required to fill out a green card, but all are welcome to the podium when the time comes. That being said, we're going to move forward to the next item on the City Council agenda, which is the Pledge of Allegiance. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Color Guard, prepare to advance. Color Guard, advance. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Color Guard, prepare to post the colors. Color Guard, post the colors. Color Guard, honor the colors. Color Guard, dismissed. The audience may be seated.
Thanks a lot. Scouts, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself by name to the chamber this evening and also recognize your scout leader.
My name is Nicholas Hans.
My name is Wesley.
My name is Amog.
My name is Tarun.
My name is Brandon.
And our scout leader is Mr. Hans.
Okay, awesome. Let's give these young folks a big round of applause. Great job. Great job, guys. Very important what you're doing. Okay, moving on to tonight's invocation. That will be presented by myself this evening. The council does take turns with the invocation. I'm honored tonight to present the invocation. I used to pray a lot when I first came into office, and it's something that is important to me in my way, and I encourage others to do so or not in your way, and whatever makes you comfortable and free. I want to really spend tonight's invocation to bow my head, and I'll ask you to join me if you're able to with your freedom. Dear Heavenly Father, we ask that you look down and over our city of Milpitas and protect our first responders. I ask that you provide them with the strength and the courage and the heroism to encounter what the world may bring on a day-to-day basis. We ask that you look over all first responders in the United States of America. We ask that you pray for the family of Harris County Deputy Sandeep Dhaliwal, who tragically lost his life recently as he woke up and did his job to protect the community. In your name, amen. Okay, moving on to presentations. I'll move down here to the podium. I'll ask the City Council to join me. Okay, a lot of things to go over tonight. Very excited to be here with the autumn upon us and a new month. It does feel like certainly a refreshing feeling. I know September was a very active month in every front. And for all the community members and folks here today, every single person, I'm really looking forward to October. I think it's going to bring tremendous days to the city of Milpitas and our greater community. And we'll go ahead and kick off October with some very honorable proclamations. First proclamation is for the National Hispanic Heritage Month. The city of Milpitas proclaims that there is an estimated nearly 60 million people of Hispanic heritage in the United States, comprising 18.1% of the total United States population. Over a quarter of the population of the San Francisco Bay Area is Hispanic. And each year, the U.S. celebrates the contributions that Hispanic people have made to our country with a Hispanic Heritage Month that runs from actually September 15th to October 15th. And Congress first passed a resolution to celebrate Hispanic heritage at the national level as a week-long event on September the 17th in 1968. Nearly 20 years later, on August the 17th, 1988, President Ronald Reagan extended the celebration to a month from September 15th to October 15th. And September 15th was chosen as the start date in order to coincide with the Independence Day celebrations of 5 Latin American countries: Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and a country I've been to, Nicaragua. During the National Hispanic Heritage Month, we recognize the millions of Hispanic Americans whose love of family, hard work, and community have helped unite us as a people and sustain us as a nation. As entrepreneurs and public servants, scholars and artists, service members, civilians, police officers, firefighters, council members, city attorneys, Hispanic Americans have provided wisdom, energy, courage, and leadership in both small and large communities across the United States, like Milpitas. Now, I, on behalf of our city as one, I do by here proclaim National Hispanic Heritage Month right here. It's quite an honor. I want to hand this to my colleagues and present it to my colleagues. I do want to make note that our city is one that values values, and our residents and voters vote for values and character. And a city that is considered the number 2 Asian city by Forbes.com, with over 60% of the population some sort of Asian Pacific or Islander. Our city has elected to have a majority Hispanic American city council. Yeah, those are just the facts, and we're bringing them to you. I think we will not be going to El Torito after. It's closed at 10, and so... and we might. Okay, the next proclamation is one that I think has a special meaning here in Milpitas. I'll leave it there, but I know we did this proclamation in the past, and it's an honor for me to read off the proclamation and support every person in the city of Milpitas. And I'll go ahead and read the proclamation for National Bullying Prevention Month. I know sometimes we see in the news or the internet instances where the unfathomable happens and bullying leads to great tragedy and sorrow. And so I know we have some young people here today, and this is an issue that not just exists on our schoolyards growing up, but also throughout our lives. And so it is important to touch on the matter. Bullying is a physical, verbal, sexual, or emotional harm or intimidation intentionally directed at a person or a group of people. Bullying occurs everywhere, in neighborhoods, playgrounds, schools, throughout all industries, internet, social media. Various researchers have concluded that bullying is the most common form of violence, affecting millions of American children and adolescents annually, not to mention around the world. Harmful effects on victims of bullying may include loss of self-esteem, increased anxiety, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, substance abuse, and increased risk of suicidal thoughts. Along with the Pacer Center, we're presenting this proclamation, the Pacer Center was founded in 1977 to expand opportunities, enhance the quality of life of children and young adults with disabilities and their families. Pacer launched the National Bullying Prevention Month over 10 years ago in 2006 to create and increase community awareness and foster societal change against the acceptance of bullying, the tolerance of bullying, so that all youth are safe and supported wherever they may be, at school, in the neighborhood, or on the internet. Additionally, in May of this year, the City Council amended a policy to include the city's prohibition against general abusive treatment or bullying in the workplace. And we did that. And we did that, and we did more. And we'll always stand up for every person in the city of Milpitas. You know it. It feels so good to be here today, free of bullying. Feels really good. Because it's the right thing to stand up for people. Even if it means danger to oneself. And so we all need to do our part, especially when bullying becomes extreme and physical and emotional and verbal in the workplace. And so truly blessed to continue with these proclamations and to stand up for folks that are bullied and don't have a voice. I encourage all of our citizens to increase their awareness of the problem of bullying and to engage in prevention activities that will make our community safer for our children and adolescents. Here in Milpitas, you know, if you ever need anything, all you gotta do is reach out to the person to your left or to your right, and that's what we're gonna do. So I, on behalf of our great city, do hereby proclaim on this day, the 1st of October, as National Bullying Prevention Month. Thank you. Come on up. Thanks a lot. We're really serious about the proclamation, and we hope you know that. Okay, and we're saving our third proclamation here. Last but not least, very proud to present this proclamation because of our first responders, our firefighters, because it's going to be Fire Prevention Week. The city of Milpitas proclaims that it is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living and visiting Milpitas. Fire is a serious public safety concern, both locally and nationally, and homes are the locations where people are at greatest risk from fire. There are hundreds of thousands of Americans. Disregard. Home fires killed 2,630 people in the United States in 2017, according to the National Fire Protection Association, also known as the NFPA. And the fire departments in the United States responded to 357,000 home fires, approximately. The majority of U.S. fire deaths, 4 out of 5, occur at home each year. The fire death rate per 1,000 home fires reported to United States fire departments was 4% higher in 2017 than in 1980. When the smoke alarm sounds, Milpitas residents may have less than 2 minutes to escape to safety. Milpitas residents who have planned and practiced a home fire escape plan are more prepared and will therefore be more likely to survive a fire. Milpitas residents should make a home escape plan, drawing a map of each level of the home, showing all doors and windows. And Milpitas residents should practice the home fire escape plan with everyone in the household, every single person, including pets and visitors. Milpitas residents should practice the home fire escape drill at least twice a year, maybe once during the day and the other at night. Milpitas residents should teach children to escape on their own in case adults can't help them. And Milpitas residents should make sure everyone in the home knows how to call or text 911. Milpitas residents should practice using different ways out. And Milpitas residents in a real emergency should get low and go under the smoke to get out quickly. Milpitas residents should get out and stay out, never going back inside the home for people, pets, or things. Milpitas residents are responsive to public education measures and are able to take action to increase their safety from fire, especially in their homes. The 2019 Fire Prevention Week theme, are you ready for it? Quote, "Not every hero wears a cape. Plan and practice your escape." End quote. Effectively serves to remind us that we need to take personal steps to increase our safety from fire. I want to thank the Milpitas Fire Department. Let's give them a big round of applause for what they do. Thank you. And also the fire marshal and all the folks that do hazmat inspecting. We recognize that too. Fire prevention in many different ways, different zones, industry, commercial. You live here long enough in Milpitas, and sometimes folks whose homes catch fire, or people you went to school with, and so I've seen different fires across the city, and it's just one of those things that we'll always do our best, but you never know. But we'll always be ready, and I know here in Milpitas we're more ready than any other city in the nation. So let's go ahead and proclaim October 6th through 12th this year as Fire Prevention Week, and we'll ask some of the firefighters to come up here and join us for the photo with the council. Let's give them a big round of applause. Flank both ends. Plenty of room here. Come on. Yeah. Chief, come on. Yeah. Humble guy. All right, that's it with our presentations tonight. Excellent presentations all around. And we'll move on our agenda here. Let's go back up. Okay, moving on to public forum. Those in the audience, that's you, are invited to address the city council on any subject not on tonight's agenda. Meaning if you're here for an agenda item, there's a number to it. You can wait till we get to that number. It's going to really help you out, help us all out. But you can speak during the